It's going to mean something different to everybody. But, to me, if we think about like a technical side of it, we like to break the face down into thirds. You have your upper third and your middle third and your lower third. And so we actually really focus more on the lower third. And so I think when you can find symmetry and harmony and balance in the lower third of your face, it can do amazing things for the middle and upper third of your face as well.
Welcome to the Beauty Talk podcast, where we feature how the best medical practitioners help their patients to look better, younger, and healthier. Now, enjoy the show, and here's your host.
Daniel Gao here. I'm the host of Beauty Talk. We feature the top medical practitioners in health and beauty, both inside and out. I have Dr. Beau Murphey of Murphey Dental Aesthetics, one of the fastest growing cosmetic dental practices in the state of Mississippi, and one of the only dental practices that is almost exclusively dedicated to cosmetic and aesthetic dentistry and delivering luxury high-end dentistry. He is also Dental Economics Magazine 2025 Rising Star Award recipient. So Dr. Murphey, welcome and glad to have you here.
Thank you. Glad to be here.
Yeah, so let's start from the very beginning. What first got you interested in the medical field?
Well, it's really boring, honestly. So my dad was an accountant, and he did tax returns for several clients, and he just randomly said, "You know what? I think you should be a dentist." Most of my clients are really happy, and they enjoy what they do, and you're not on call with like a physician would be, and so I honestly was like, okay, I'll do that, and I just started pursuing it, and here we are now. I when I first got into it, it was like, oh yeah, you can go play golf on Fridays, you can do all this stuff, have this time off, and I haven't seen that yet. I've been 10 years in, and I still haven't had golf on Fridays, so I keep hoping for that.
Okay. And now when it comes to dentistry, I mean, there's, I guess, a couple different paths you can take. You went down the path of cosmetic and aesthetic dentistry versus just like general dentistry. What was it about the cosmetic and aesthetic side that you decided to go down that path?
Well, I think as with anything, it first starts with failure, honestly, and just being vulnerable. My first veneer case I did, I was right out of school, and honestly, it was 4 veneers on the upper teeth, and what now would be like a pretty much slam dunk case. It just didn't really go that well, and so honestly, we were seating the veneers, and this was my first case to do, and of course, you you try to do it all right the first time, and honestly, when I seated these veneers, they all got stuck together, and they were all glued together, and so I had to go in, and it was just a mess, clean up all the glue and the cement, and kind of almost essentially like redo the case. And I was honestly just embarrassed, and I was told myself, I'm like, all right, I'm never doing veneers, and I'm never doing this again, because that was hard on me, it was hard on the patient, and I'm just going to stay away from that. And so it bothered me for so long that just because I wasn't good at it, and I had essentially failed in my head, that I just at that point was like, all right, I'm going to learn everything there is to know about veneers and about teeth, and like all these protocols and how to bond them on properly, and what are the best results and what's the best long-term results. And I just kind of went all in on that, and started speaking, Instagram at that time. This was like 2015, 2016. Instagram was pretty new, and there was a pretty famous dentist at the time, like Michael Lappa. I mean, pretty much everybody knows his name in the dental world now, but honestly, he was doing work that was amazing and incredible. And so I just reached out to him on Instagram and just was, started picking his brain. And he was at the time very nice and answered me back. And now he's like big time. He has like 4 offices around the world. But at the time, I mean, he had an office in New York and was doing a lot of cosmetic and aesthetic dentistry. And I really learned a lot from him. And I went and took his course, and kind of did some hands-on things with him. And at that point, I really started learning things properly, doing them the right way. And then the cases started, speaking for themselves. And that was probably 10 years ago when that started. And so, to answer your question, it you kind of forged the fire with some failure and adversity, but being able to, learn from that was really important. And now I obviously love what I do, and I'm very blessed to be able to do what I do.
Mhm. And what caused you to decide to start your own practice? I know it's not always easy having your own business, but what prompted you to decide, hey, I want to have my own practice?
Yeah. Well, I was like, I knew that I wanted to start a cosmetic based or an aesthetic based practice. Now, in Mississippi, 3 years ago, 3 or 4 years ago, there's really, if somebody wanted to have a smile enhancement or a smile makeover or a transformation, really people would travel to Nashville or Atlanta or Texas and go to a true cosmetic dentist. And I just started saying, I'm doing all the same things that all these other dentists are doing. And I feel like my work, I could be that person in Mississippi where people don't have to travel. People can stay right here in the heart of Mississippi and get this type of high end, aesthetic dentistry done. And I just felt really confident that I could do that and made an investment in myself. And when we opened it, our name is Murphy Dental Aesthetics, and we still do general dentistry and cleanings and checkups, but our focus really is more of treating people that value their teeth.
Okay. So now that you have your practice, I'm gonna talk a little bit more about what you do, what you specialize in. You mentioned you do the general dentistry and cleaning and all
Yeah,
that, but
yeah.
the specialty seems to be the smile makeover using veneers.
Mhm.
So could you talk a little bit more about that? I know you also use porcelain and also composite veneers. So could you also talk about the difference between those two as well?
Yeah. Well, unfortunately, right now, the American Dental Association doesn't recognize cosmetic dentistry as, a specialty, if you will. And so, you know, I guess you could think about it like I've been trained a lot with learning how to do this type of dentistry, which it really is different than general dentistry. Not only from a technical standpoint, but just a comprehensive or more of an ideal dentistry type standpoint. It really is a different way of thinking than how you're taught in school. And so I started out really kind of focusing more on porcelain veneers and doing a lot of porcelain ceramic work. And that's kind of what our office is really known for. But within the last couple of years, composite has really come a long way. And composite is typically what you think of when you think of getting a tooth filling or a filling in a tooth. That's composite. And if you layer that on the front of a tooth, generally speaking, it doesn't look so great. But now there are different types of composite where you can layer it on your front teeth and you can polish it, and it really does polish where it looks almost like porcelain. And so that's very technique sensitive. It's a lot more technique sensitive than porcelain veneers. And so I don't know, I kind of looked at it as more of a, you know people have to make an investment to be able to have a smile makeover in porcelain. But if we could reach kind of a different section of the clientele, that where getting a smile makeover using composite, you can do it at half the price and we can still give you a really, really great result with it. And so it was a way for me to kind of reach people at different stages of their, discretionary income, different stages of their life where you wouldn't want to go in and do a full smile makeover with porcelain veneers on somebody that's like 16 years old. But say they get out of braces and they have some smaller teeth and they need some cosmetic work done. Well, composite bonding is a great option because you're really using it as more of an additive, procedure, and you're not damaging any tooth underneath. And so it just fit into our workflow and fit within like what we were wanting to do. And so now we really focus mainly on porcelain and composite bonding or composite veneers.
Okay. And for people who don't know what veneers are, I probably should have started off with this, but what is a veneer? What does it do?
Yeah, no, great question. And we assume that like people know what it is, but veneers are, think about it, the best way I can describe it is if you are a female and you're wanting to get your nails done, and say you have your, just like your bare nail, but you want it to have some color, or you want it to have some pop, or you want it to just look nice and have a different shape or a different form. You go to the nail salon and you get a nail, essentially bonded on your natural nail. And so now that nail looks pretty, it's glossy, it looks nice. really the same thing with teeth. So it's a veneer, it's a porcelain veneer made out of ceramic, and it bonds to your enamel on your teeth. And so, people that have discolored teeth or maybe teeth that are, yellowish, or maybe somebody has really small teeth and they want to have maybe a little bit longer teeth, you can use porcelain veneers as a type of restoration to be able to change those things. And so, same thing with composite. Composite, we can, change the shape of people's teeth. Now we bond it directly on the enamel as well. And so, think of veneers as, yeah, we can make teeth pretty and make them look really nice, but we also use it as a restoration type as well. So if somebody has also broken a tooth or they bit down on something wrong and part of their tooth broke off, well, we can actually use porcelain to essentially fix that tooth where it's going to mimic the way enamel would feel whenever somebody bites and chews and eats. So I tell people it's really a restoration. It's a type of restoration, but it just depends on what your goals are, whether we use composite or whether we use porcelain.
Okay. And is the veneer more for aesthetics or is it more for functionality or is it both?
Great question. Yeah, so both. A lot of people come to me wanting to, have, a better appearance of their teeth, wanting to have an improved smile. And a lot of times, what we're seeing and what we're fixing in their teeth is not necessarily a vanity issue. A lot of times, it's more of a functional issue. They're, every time they bite their teeth together, they're wearing the edges of their teeth, or, they've worn down, 20 to 30% of their enamel already. And now we are kind of rebuilding their smile or rebuilding their teeth back. And so, porcelain is a really great option to do a number of things, whether you're kind of rebuilding back a tooth that has shortened over time, or whether somebody does come in and they just want to have a pretty smile. You're able to really kind of accomplish both of those things with what we're doing. And so, what we do, I mean, we're not just putting pretty teeth on people. I mean, we're obviously making sure that everything is healthy underneath. If there's any kind of damage or cavities or anything that needs to be fixed beforehand, you don't have to get all that fixed first and then to get veneers. We can fix all that stuff while we do the veneers, so it's kind of I get that question a lot. So we can actually fix a cavity. Like, say, if we remove a cavity on somebody's tooth, well, now there's, a cavitation in the tooth. Well, we can actually put that feel, we can build that feel into the porcelain. And so now, whenever you bond that porcelain veneer on, it actually will also fill the cavity as well. And so it acts as a really strong filling, but at the same time, it's a pretty tooth on the outside as well.
Okay. And if someone is missing a tooth or missing teeth, can veneers help with that?
So veneers are really mainly meant to just go on the outside of the tooth, especially if you're doing like a very minimal, case. Somebody that's missing a tooth, you have a couple of different options that you can replace a missing tooth. Number one is to do a dental implant, which is essentially like, think of it as like an artificial tooth root that goes into the bone, and then you're putting a tooth on that artificial tooth root. And so, you can still eat and chew and bite and all those things. And from the outside, it just looks like a normal tooth. Even if you have a veneer on one tooth and then you have a dental implant on the tooth beside it, we can make it seamless where it just looks like it's just one of your natural teeth. The second option would be doing like a dental bridge, which is like a bonded restoration. It's made out of either porcelain or another material called zirconia. That's a white, pretty material as well. And it's kind of like you're using both of the teeth on either side of the missing space to basically is bond on a fake tooth in the middle. So it's not really a root replacement, but it's from the outside. If somebody were to smile, you would have a tooth in the middle that's kind of, covering up that or masking that space there where the missing tooth is. But it's not ever something that you have to take in and out. It's always something that you can keep in there permanently and you can eat and chew and function.
Okay. Now, in your practice, you really focused on making it a hospitality-driven environment in your office, like really
Yeah.
focus on hospitality. What what caused you to really focus on that?
Well, nobody wakes up in the morning and says, I have a dentist appointment today, and and gets really excited about it. And so we understand that, and there's no hard feelings with that. So we just decided, well, what if we just made the experience more pleasant? And somebody that comes to our office, instead of having a clipboard and a sliding glass door, we wanted to have an open feel, and we wanted to have, a welcoming staff and a friendly staff to be able to welcome them and put them at ease. And a lot of the hospitality just is lost these days, and so if we can do that with our patients who are so gracious to come to us, kind of roll out the red carpet for them, I think it helps with their anxiety. I think it helps people just know that we're here for them and we care for them. And so that's a really important part of our practice, is that, with the type of dentistry that we're doing, people expect a level of hospitality, and the quality of dentistry is just already understood, but nobody wants to come to a place where they may be ready to make a really big investment. People want to feel treated a certain way and feel important, and so that's really important that you know me and my staff understand that we're in the people business. We're not in the dental business. We're treating people and not teeth.
Mm. Okay. And when it comes to misconceptions or myths, I'm sure you get a lot of them from your patients. What would you say some of the most common myths or misconceptions you hear?
Well, fluoride's kind of the big thing now. Fluoride is kind of a hot topic in dentistry, where I believe a study came out recently where they were linking lower IQ scores in children that had fluoride and were exposed to fluoride. And so there was a lot of variables in that study that were a little bit misleading, a little bit inaccurate. And so you know, as a dentist, like, I still believe in fluoride because I do see its benefits. But we understand that there are people that may have some different information that they kind of go by and swear by. And so, you know, in 10 years from now, it may, fluoride may be totally gone and we may not even be talking about this. But I think that there comes a point where, if you do have a mouthful of cavities, or you always are fighting, a new cavity every time you go to the dentist, I think that fluoride certainly has a place, and certainly you can benefit from that. But at the same time, I mean, people have to make a decision for themselves that, if they want to have that in their toothpaste or in their drinking water, that's really kind of a decision that they should make on their own. But for us and my kids and my family, we still consider it safe here in the office. But yeah, I'd say fluoride's probably the number one topic that we get.
Got it. Okay, now, Dr. Murphy, let's say that someone is looking to get some veneers done. They've never done it before. They don't know which dentist to go to. What would be your most important advice you would give to this person as they're doing their search, so that they can find that dentist
Yeah,
who really specializes in this, has the knowledge, has the experience, and can get them a great result in the end?
yeah. I think, number one, speaking to somebody that they know that has had work done by myself or any other dentist. I mean, it's an investment, and so you want to be able to go to somebody that really has a lot of reps, has the reps, has the work that they can showcase you, and not just show you a brochure of veneers, but show you actual pictures and photographs of their own work and how it turned out. And, what are how is this person doing 5 years down the road, 10 years down the road? And so we have really, like, thousands of pictures of befores and afters that that's on our website. I mean, people can kind of go through that and go through our social media. But I'd say just go into somebody who is experienced in doing this, because it is a very, very technique sensitive procedure when you talk about veneers and smile makeovers. And there's so many different protocols that people use and so many different labs that people use. And so even though you may want veneers, or you see a celebrity that has veneers and you want their smile, well, you know, a ceramist or a dental lab that is making those veneers, even though it's veneers, it may not be made the same way from another lab, or it may, the shapes of the teeth may be different. And so there's so many factors that go into it. I think just being able to go to somebody that you can see their before and afters and like what you see, and then go to a consultation and ask the right questions. I think that's the most important thing.
Okay. And when it comes to the future, where do you think the future of dentistry is going?
Well, AI certainly is moving really fast in dentistry, as it is everywhere else. But, I don't know that it'll ever like replace the dentist. But I mean, right now we have software where we can upload our x-rays, or the software like overlays x-rays that are already in our software, and it will actually tell us where cavities are on the x-ray, which is just crazy. And so things like that, I mean, that's something where, obviously, like, we look at the x-rays, and if we do have questions or we need a second opinion, we can use AI to, kind of decipher if something is there or not. 3D printing, that's a huge thing right now. 3D printing, crowns, even veneers, just about everything you can think of in dentistry. And being able to, I mean, just the digital side of dentistry has really just blown up in the last 5 years. And so you think about like somebody like going to a dental office now, and you get like a goopy impression in your mouth and all the stuff is running out and you're gagging. Like, you hardly know anybody that does that anymore, because it's all about getting a 3D scan, and so, but like, that seems obsolete now. But I mean, 5 years ago, people were still doing it. So you think in the next 5 years, I mean, even like a digital scanner, it's probably going to be obsolete. So I think just AI and the digital age of dentistry is probably where things are really headed.
It'll be a very interesting future. Okay. Well, Dr. Murphey, I do have one last question for you, but before I ask it, I do want to point people to your website at murphydental.aesthetics.com. So last question is, what does beauty mean to you?
Oh, great question. Well, it's going to mean something different to everybody. But, to me, if we think about like a technical side of it, we like to break the face down into thirds. You have your upper third and your middle third and your lower third. And so we actually really focus more on the lower third. And so I think when you can find symmetry and harmony and balance in the lower third of your face, it can do amazing things for the middle and upper third of your face as well. And so we see it all the time where people have worn down their enamel on their teeth, and their lower third of their face is really compressed, and it makes you look old. And so a lot of times when we build the bite and we build the teeth back up to the appropriate level, that lower third of the face opens back up. These little wrinkle lines get tighter again, and it just brings back a youthful appearance to people. And so, from our side of things, I think we can control a lot of that. And so I see it through that type of lens. But I'm sure if you asked, a plastic surgeon or somebody that's in facial aesthetics, they would probably tell you something different. But, having a attractive smile is a really, really powerful thing. And I think that a lot of people, hopefully, now are starting to understand that. And going to the right person can really, help you elevate not only your teeth and your smile, but really your whole facial aesthetics as well.
Okay, very well said. Well, there you have it, Dr. Murphey sharing his expertise. So, Doctor, where can people contact you and your practice?
Yeah, so you can go to our website. It's www.murphydental.aesthetics.com. And our phone number is 769-567-1909. Our social is Dr. Beau Murphey on Instagram. And there you can find all of our before and afters. And we have a fun team, so we like to, cut up on social media a little bit. But yeah, we'd love to see anybody interested wanting this type of work done.
Awesome. Well, Dr. Murphey, this is great. Thank you for coming on. Thank you for sharing your knowledge, and thanks for sharing your message.
Thank you, Daniel. I appreciate you.
Thanks for listening to the Beauty Talk podcast. Any questions, please contact the practice directly with the contact information provided during the show. We'll see you again next time. Bye for now.